Florence, she considered herself the lucky one because she was the youngest of about 7 children. And her father at that time was a merchant. He became very prosperous. And he said, oh, it must be because of Florence was born. So he would take Florence on all of his trips, all of his business trips. And she learned to eat very, very well. She learned to cook well. She learned to enjoy spirits, drinks, which she loved all her life. And then the war came, and the Chiang Kai-shek started an army of young people. So at a teenager, she and another friend decided they would join the army, and they did. And she said she had never lived under such dire conditions because they would have maybe 1 bowl of rice for the whole day, and maybe a little fatty pork, which she said she couldn't eat at the beginning, but by the end, she was gobbling all up because they were so hungry. She has always been adventuresome. She had that spirit of, nothing daunted her. She would just dive right in. So she comes here and she marries KY, and they live on the Upper West Side in the Bronx, okay? And there are a whole group of Chinese living there at the same time. That's how they came to China Institute. She didn't really know a lot of English, but, I mean, she didn't need it because her personality was just so outgoing. And so one day, my 8-year-old, who's now 56, said to me, Mom, what are you going to do when we're all gone? And it occurred to me, well, I've always cooked. Why don't I go to China Institute and take a few cooking classes, which is what I did. And that's how I met Florence. I felt inauthentic having been born here in the United States and cooking Chinese food. Who's going to believe me? Because after all, I was born here, right? And I spoke English. So working with Florence gave me that feeling of authenticity. That made me feel like, okay, I'm really getting to all this knowledge of all the regions, which is, of course, her first cookbook, was all the regional cookbook. And so that's how we met. And we just hit it off as friends. Oh, my first impression, I was intimidated because although she didn't speak, English as if she had been born here, she never failed to be able to get her point across. If she were teaching a technique, she would be able to do that. And that's what I learned from her is, how she talked to her students. And they all fell in love with her because she was just so great sense of humor, very generous, open, and just always, encouraging no matter what. They would all chatter in Shanghainese and they'd all say, oh, Millie doesn't speak. And so somebody would translate. But because I loved all of them, whether or not I spoke their dialect, it didn't matter because we all communicated through the cooking and what we did. And it was like being, finding a home, really, in a way. She's been such an inspiration. And to be able to do this and talk about her is just so, it's wonderful. She had it all. That's all I can say.